Well, thank you very much for staying with us on the AM show. And it is time now for us to get into our big stories. We're hosting our guest this morning, and we're waiting for our guest from the other side. I always do this at the start, so you know. But joining us right now in the studio, Member of Parliament for Anya Sowutuom, Dr. Dixon Adomakukisi. He joins the conversation. Later, we'll have the Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South also joining the conversation. I'm talking about Kweku Ricketts Hagan. Senior.
Yeah.
Fabu, good morning.
Morning.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Why have you been hiding? You're playing hide and seek with us. What's happening?
In French, they say pardon moi. Pardon me. I think you know, part of our work requires that we travel around the nation. So,
Right.
as part of monitoring, based on my committee, both health and public account, I've had to go to various parts of the country. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was in Cape Coast.
Okay. You were close to Ricketts.
Absolutely. I was going to tell him that, you know, yesterday I was in his area. We ended up checking on how the schools were doing in terms of malaria prevention and how knowledgeable the students were in terms of the benefits of using insecticide-treated nets. And then we distributed quite a number to a number of schools that we visited. So that takes us away. That's why sometimes I'm unable to come to the show. But pardon me, whilst away, I'm always with you because we watch you on the internet or on TV. So thanks for having me today. Yeah.
So there are quite a number of matters we've tabled for discussion today. Some of them focusing on the work of Parliament, but I'd like to start from your constituency, Anya Sowutuom, like I always do with you, the members of Parliament.
Yeah.
What's the latest? There's this particular road. I've forgotten. Is it Antieku? Antieku.
Yes.
You see, I remember every time I see you because I note that most of the time when you are on, people complain about that road.
Yeah.
What are the latest developments in Anya Sowutuom?
Yeah, so a huge portion of the Antieku road has been tarred.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
You mean the bumpy, that it's been leveled and even
leveled
tarred?
and tarred. If you there's a point called Dela, from Dela through the municipal all the way to Anya Zonal Council is now tarred. They've had the first coating, so there'll be a second one. Currently, the same contractor is working out in Israel, Sotum Connect, which is where the Pentecost University is. Because the university is a huge thing for us, we're working on that road so that the students can have the ease of traffic, and it connects to the Israel police station. So parts of Lomnava is also being touched, and we're hoping that when that is done, we can move to two key places, Palace Town and Agape, and then also the portion of the Antieku Road that has not been attended to will be attended to. The municipal chief executive, along with the road minister and myself, are very keen on making sure that this is done. The hold-up, and let me use this avenue, the hold-up has been the drains around the Antieku. In fact, right in front of my hospital, that there's some huge drains we need to do. And that is the hold-up, because if we don't do it, whatever tarring we do will be washed away. So that is why there's that hiccup. But once we attend to the drains, the work will commence for the remaining portion of the Antieku road. But be it as it may, I think that considering some of the efforts we've put in terms of change of contractors,
right,
and thanks to the Minister of Roads, I mean, when we came on board, the past 3 years, per his visit to my constituency, I made the case that we had to make a change, and he agreed to making changes to some of the contractors we had, and that is why we're benefiting now from the fruits of his trip to our constituency. So I'm very grateful. Anytime I see him, I'm very touched, and I'm still working through cocoa, as well, to see if we can get something, for Anya Sotom, because the likes of Onyinase, which is around Aoshi, the likes of Blue Kiosk to Odogono Senior High School,
right?
The likes of, once again, NIC, Palace Town area, they also need to see something. And more importantly, I mean, Fun Milk rings a bell. We're looking to encourage the contractor based on some IPC payments so that he can come back and complete the work he's been doing. But as you know, the kitty is quite low in terms of cash, and not everything can be done as quickly as we would have wished.
Interesting dynamics. Let me just let those of you who would like to watch us, unfortunately nowadays I hear there are some changes on Facebook and it's difficult. So at a point, for example, the news review, you got the stream live on the feed. But now if you go to Joy News, you would have to look for videos before you can get it, which affects, those of you who are able to find it on the thread. So when you go on Joy News on Facebook, just go to videos and that's where you'll find it. It's on and off. I don't know what Meta is doing with these updates. I guess we'll have to find a way around that development. All right, so just go to videos like I am doing, and then you can get the feed from there. Now, having spoken about your constituency, let's stay in Parliament for a bit.
Yeah.
There's the ban on importation. It's become a controversial subject.
Yeah.
You can talk about the Yemwadie that you would have. Do you take TZ? Tuazafi?
I should be, but I have never.
You've never tried it?
Yes.
You should try TZ.
I mean, forgive me. I don't even now take fufu. It's been so
You don't take fufu?
It's been so.
I don't take it.
It's been so long. And I always sort of crave it, but I don't indulge at the moment.
I'm saying. So, the Yemwadie, usually when you get your Tuazafi, there must be Yemwadie somewhere.
Yes.
In there. It's like Wache without
Willy.
Aha. That there must be.
Yeah.
There's that. There are some fruit juices. There's poultry products, rice,
sugar,
and other staples in there that are being tabled. Recently, my colleague Evans Mensah had a conversation with Kobinata Hero Hammond, which reminds me of when he was in Parliament recently talking about this, and at the end he was like, "Mommy, fun." That always gets me laughing. But it's not a laughable subject.
Yeah.
From one end, ISA, for example, of the University of Ghana tells us in the first half of 2023, we expended quite a bit on importing food products. Yeah. So this is something that we've spoken about for a long time. At some point, we must get there. But the question is whether this is the point, because the other side is also raising concerns. Already, food is so expensive. I just went and got something this morning. If I tell you for that small bit how much I spent, you would be surprised.
Yeah.
For a little bit of food and a little bit of protein, you would be surprised.
Yeah.
So already things are so expensive. You do this, prices are going to skyrocket. What does that do for everybody, especially the poorest of the poor? How are they going to get by? Already, you have the telcos, MTN, because of some push from government for alignment in terms of its hegemony to ensure that other telcos can also. Now, they are having to increase their prices. So maybe a bundle you would have got for X amount, now you have to pay about 3-4 times more, and you are still getting something pretty low. All of that is in there. How do you, from where you sit, react to all of this vis-a-vis the proposed importation on these items?
Well, let me say that the concept is commendable,
right?
And I will talk in a way, forgive me, for both sides to make the case very clear. But I want to cite Russia in all of this. Listen, Russia just began war with, Kosovo, or shall I say Ukraine. And within the space of about 3 months, a lot of the things they were importing, they found substitutes So, for instance, if they were importing apples, they found something else for their citizenry to enjoy. So what it means is that once they made a deliberate decision that when times of war, there are some bans on us as a nation, that is Russia, our people still have to eat. People agreed, and so this is something that means that we need political will, and the masses also have to be brought on board for this to work. In the sense that if we, quote unquote, make rice importation illegal, are we sure that the average Ghanaian will be comfortable with local rice? We don't know. I, for instance, I enjoy my local rice, but are we sure? And do we have...
I mean, the foreign rice is an acquired taste, whether it's basmati rice or whatever Vietnam rice. But it took time to get here. It will take time to go back.
Exactly. So these are some of the key things we have to consider. Now, one of the biggest arguments against the ban on importation is that do we have the capacity to move from 0 to 100, let me say, in terms of production of local rice or sugar
or poultry.
And let me just stay in the domain of sugar and rice. Listen, I don't know what it is, and I'm sure you don't also know. Commander Sugar Factory, if it's the sugar cane we don't have, I don't know. If it's the management that is not working, I don't know. As it stands now...
As for that place, it's a whole problem.
As it stands now, this was one key thing that could encourage all of us to say that, okay, we have these tons of sugar being produced by the one factory that, you know, former President Mahama touted as one of his major achievements. But here's the case that I don't think we get a cup of sugar really sustained every day.
In fact, before Alan Tremartin, you know,
yes,
went off to pursue his political ambitions of becoming president, we had been told that, hey, it's going to be, you remember?
I understand you.
Till today.
And even a CEO was appointed, I think a foreign guy, if I'm not mistaken, of Indian heritage or so. I think so. So the key thing here is that, listen, before we implement some of these things, all the few key things have to be in place. So that we are not running amok.
So we don't jump the gun, right?
And as it stands, I mean, I don't want a scenario where we've cut, and let me cite, listen, I was in Europe recently to look at tomato production, growing, and then the puree, and then the sauce production in Italy. And I must say, what goes into that? We are nowhere near. So for us to wake up overnight and say that, oh, we're not going to import tomato sauce again without seeing anything on the ground, I would worry. And I think that this might be best done in sort of a piecemeal approach.
So gradual approach.
Where we come to terms with the fact that, okay, rice importation, this is going to be the cap. You know, we're going to do either 75-25 or 60-40. I think that should be so that if local poultry farmers can produce enough for 40% of the consumption in this country, then we can be moving somewhere. So that policy has to be strengthened. And the onus also is on government to support the private enterprises by way of tax incentives, or by way of appropriate roads network, by way of electrical.
Very true, because that also adds on to the cost. Absolutely. Bad roads, they are paying more for transporting the goods.
And I think that when we take these deliberate actions, and this is more of like an agro-finance discussion, where and industry. So really, I think there are three key committees that need to sit carefully on this. I'm looking at finance, I'm looking at industry, I'm looking at agric, and they should streamline and do things. And then, in fact, we have to add health, because the FDA, Food and Drug Authority or board, has to authenticate that these things that are coming to us to consume meet, quote unquote, basic minimum standards. Because we can't, churn out sugar that is not good for consumption by simply trying to meet the tons of sugar that is being produced. Just as we check cement to make sure that the cement produced are of a certain standard, sugar has to be. And I think
even
that
the poultry. Poultry is a very delicate matter. We sometimes, the poisoning, the processing, if you don't do the right thing, you could kill people.
Let me say that my late uncle, Ken Obamfo, was a poultry farmer. So poultry is something that, and that business still runs. Once in a while I get something small from that in Ashanti region. And I think that, when it comes to poultry, the fact remains that we underproduce. For our consumption as a nation. And that is why sometimes I think that our, path to creating jobs is already in the country if only we will apply. And if only all of us would have fair expectations. I must admit that this LI or this concept of doing, stoppage, or shall I say, putting a stop to importation of these things needs a lot of thinking, a lot of engagement, because the alternatives are also doing substitution. And sometimes you can stop certain things, but you have to have the appropriate substitute. And I, for one, from a health standpoint, Ghanaians should listen to me. All the fruit juices we import, that one, for instance, if you stop it tomorrow, we have oranges in this country. We have watermelon in this country. We have pineapple. And the average Ghanaian is not super time-bound, can buy the watermelon and cut it up and have it, or blend it and have it. But
you see, that's where it gets a bit tricky. I don't know the last time you checked the prices of fruits on the market. That's one. Then, people find it more, going through all these processes, you'll buy the fruit, you will expend the electricity, you'll do that. Some people may think, let me go for the finished product. It serves my purposes. Again, when you look at capacity, it's not everyone who would do that. The person in the rural area who may buy the ekumfi juice may not have a blender, okay? But they can afford calipo or ekumfi juice or whatever the case may be. You also look at the capacity of industry to produce quite a bit to shore up. Well, I would always, this is where I would always be interested in finding out, for example, when it comes to juice production, okay, what percentage are we meeting in the market? And what percentage is coming from the abroad? Because look, we've been touting ekumfi juice. I was speaking about it time without number because it was one of the few 1D, 1F things that I really saw working. I talk about it every now and then.
It's a miracle.
But now, I don't see that much on the market. And you see, observe.
They actually export more now.
But that's, interestingly. That's the thing. That's the thing. Because I remember from the start, they said that they were going to produce so much that they would be able to export. But when I look around, there's a place right across the street.
Yes.
How many people, I pay attention to these little details. You would see a ekumfi juice in a stag there. People will come and be buying other things compared to the ekumfi juice. What is wrong? Some say it's too sweet. Some have said that.
We're not marketing.
But I feel that on the other hand, one, marketing. I've not seen any advert of ekumfi juice before.
That's why
I've not seen anything before. So there are so many dynamics in there, and I'm very concerned if we are not meeting local demand and we are exporting, then I don't know what the thinking
or
is.
Local consumption is also not coming up. That's also another thing. But I really think that a concerted effort needs to be made. These 3-4 committees need to sit down and I think that iron out. And we need to also look at the possibility of substitutes. Whether the white sugar or the brown sugar, these things have to be thought out.
Brown sugar, I hear, is even healthier, right?
Absolutely. But like I said, these things have to be thought through. And it is powerful if we can achieve it. But listen, based on what I know, in terms of how we've struggled with local rice production, and then in terms of how we've struggled with meeting the demands of the poultry, let me say, consumers. So the consumers are the wachi seller on the street, the chop bar who uses chicken, and we are not meeting their demands. And then also I think that with increased production comes also reduction in the prices. And if we can increase the production of these products, it is very much likely that the cost to the individual Ghanaian will go down. And that is my worry. So this LI has multiple factors that is going to make it very difficult to get it really done. But I'm hoping that something during the appropriations, we may tinker with the numbers and then rather reduce the level of imports, and I think that might.
Because you can't just do this. I mean, look at Nigeria, for example.
With their rice.
Right, even with rice, where the former administration would build rice pyramids and be touting we've done this and that. They didn't.
They didn't.
Nigeria is struggling with that bit. I was in Lagos how long ago? The rice I ate was not Nigerian rice.
Yeah.
And I ate at different places. You get it? Yeah. Nigeria itself is struggling. So it's not something that you can... It's not something that you can, but you can, of course, there are some things you can look at. Their population is far, you can look at one state taking care of Ghana's entire population, or two states.
Yes.
Their population is huge, over 200 million. But the point is, while ISA, on one hand, is saying, look, this is not sustainable. You can't keep going like this where you are importing, and food, basic things. But on the other hand, you can't just go in one fell swoop, we're done.
One thing we can cut out, toothpick.
I noted it here. Look at this.
Because
I was just going to say, why are we importing toothpicks?
We have Diawa, and Diawa is fantastic. When you clip it and use it as a toothpick, fantastic. But
wait, are you speaking of the one used for cleaning your teeth?
Yes. If you nip it a little, there's a I'm telling you.
If you nip, you're right. No, I'm just.
It works perfect.
It does, eh? I've actually never tried
because
that.
You don't use it often.
No, it's not. I don't use it often, true.
Give it a try.
I've never given it. I have taken it away a piece, but to use it for that purpose.
Fantastic.
Hey, sir.
I'm telling you. And you know what? When appropriate marketing, if you take this on,
but the toothpick itself,
you have a huge following.
Bamboo and others, okay?
Yeah.
We have them. Why can't we make toothpicks?
And then to even make it fantastic, sapo, the traditional one, it also works. Yes, it also works. So there are appropriate substitutes, which average Ghanaians and some of the likes of you can push. When listen, I gave Asanka to my constituency and come and see, plenty talk, this and that. But Asanka is fantastic. Elsewhere, happy delight. You put your banku or fufu or your mutuo with what do you call it, nkatinkwan, in there, and it makes the food even more delicious. It's like eating wache in your ahaban. You understand? So I really think that. There's something we can do to make these
but
things.
It can't be an immediate get out.
Absolutely, it's going to be difficult. So I think looking at the numbers, rice importation, we might want to cut it to, like I said, 60-40, and see if the local people can get up to the 40.
Right.
Then we can begin to talk about transitioning to 50-50.
Right.
And then but to go from zero production or 25% production and then stopping all imports. That wouldn't be good for us. Already, listen, we don't produce enough for our population. That is a fact. Whether it's wheat, whether it's flour production, whatever it is, we don't produce enough, and it means that there's room for
enormous room
agric investment in this country, and I think that that is something that Ghana needs to look at. There's a lot of room for agro-business. And also, let me be mindful of the fact that some people would always prefer that Ghana imports because
for their own interests.
That's how they also get one or two things, if you know what I mean. Done. I was in your constituency yesterday.
Mr. Ricketts Hagan, thank you as well for being here, joining the conversation. Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, he joins the conversation. We've been talking already about some of the crucial matters that Parliament is looking at, of which you are a member. But very, very, very quickly, since time is already not on our side, I just want to find out, what is Cape Coast South like very quickly before we get into the ban on imports? And just to top up to what you said, I recently heard that another farmer was going to, in the Aveime area, it's known for rice, 10,000 hectares and all of that, but it's still nowhere near providing enough for us. And like you also mentioned, the agric inputs, labor and all of that, if we get it right, that would mean many more jobs in that sector. But like you said, bit by bit. Coming back to you, Cape Coast.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers, and good morning to the good people of Cape Coast. And my brother Doc.
He was in your area recently.
He said he was in my area. Yeah. I hope you were doing good there.
Yes, we went to work on malaria prevention.
Okay, that's great.
Some of your schools.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
health committee.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should have probably stayed in medicine instead of
and then we also visited lawyer Reku Brobe's side.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Kakum National Park.
Well done.
But I didn't go to Kakum National Park.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sure, the discussion is about this Ministry of Trade and Industries restriction, or the ally that they want to bring on a restriction. I think, in principle, nobody is against the policy. I mean, I have been a Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry before, and I know, apart from finance, and I know the challenges that we have, in this country. The problem is not with the ally, or not with the policy, but it's the way the ally is structured that gives so much powers to the minister in what we believe will end up being abused. I mean, we know that as a country, we import, too much. Things that we should be able to do at this stage. As Doc was talking about, toothpick and all that. This stick he's talking about, I know about it. If that can actually make toothpicks, why aren't people taking it and doing so? We're moving forward. We are not going backwards. Yes, you can peel it off and all that. But we can probably get an industry to peel it off and put it into proper size.
Just as we have a toothpick.
Just as we have a toothpick. So it actually doesn't make sense that there are certain things that we are still importing into this country. But before you make that decision of restricting importation or banning them, you've got to make sure that your people are going to be self-sufficient. And that is not the situation at the moment. So,
but self-sufficiency doesn't happen overnight.
Well, it doesn't, yes. But you plan towards it. These guys have been in power for 7 years. If this is what they want to do on the 8th year, they could have planned this from the very beginning and say that these items, we are making a deliberate, policy decision to do these things so that by the time we get to the 7th year, maybe we would have gotten to some equilibrium. 50%.
Better late than never. Plus, you also have to appreciate the fact that Alan Chemating moved off, and this is Tahiru Hammond's time in the sun, and he is now contemplating some of these matters. I'm sure you're fully aware. Issa has said that our dependence on imports, especially when it comes to food, when you look at our wage bill, we're spending so much importing food into the country. That is part of the problem. I know you appreciate that.
We all know that. I mean, we know that we appreciate that. The issue here is about whether we should go for, a ban or restriction, as they're calling it now, when we have not actually made an adequate provision for us in terms of an import substitution. This is what this whole thing is about. It's import substitution. Therefore, if you are not going to bring something into your country and there's the demand for it, is there any vehicles of you yourself producing these things? Can you set up the factories and all that? And some of these things, if it's agriculture product, if it's agro processing, can you set up all these things and make sure that at least a certain percentage, and go for 60-40 or whatever, depending on what it is, and then you scale up on your local production
while
and
reducing
you scale down your import. You can't just go for what you're doing. It's going to create chaos. First and foremost, unnecessary shortage or artificial shortage will come into the system. What does that do to prices?
Drive prices up.
It drives prices up. People are not going to, and getting to Christmas, it's even a bad timing to contemplate such a thing. If you want to do this, maybe look at the following year or something, but even that, a lot of work needs to be done. This matures, if you had put this in, lay this and then matures in 21 days in Parliament, and then obviously we are not able to get 2/3, which we want to be able to stop it, then it's going to be law before Christmas. And it's going to be chaotic.
Well, technically, people will tell you that
who brought
a lot of the imports would have been done by that time anyway.
Yeah, but then, are they here? That's the problem you have. When did you import? When did they arrive here? Unnecessary chaos. So the policy is not the issue. And then again...
So fundamentally, let's get this clear for our viewers and everybody. The NDC is not saying that reducing our imports and scaling up on our exports even and local production is a problem. No. But you're saying that the timing and some aspects. And so let's look at those specific aspects. You say it will give the minister too many powers. In recent times, you were saying that you people say you represent the good people of Ghana. Do they represent the bad people of Ghana? I mean, he was joking, Katie Hammond. Yeah. But what are the problems specifically with the LI?
Well, basically, it gives powers to the minister to give this permit, through some committee system. Okay. Now the problem here.
You feel that will be abused?
Yeah, it will be abused. I mean, we know this is not. They call it an import permit. This is import license. We know the name from the 60s, 70s.
And
we
corruption.
Know what is created. Corruption, monopoly, coup d'états, all as a result of these things. At the end of the day, the goods, as you're saying in Nigeria, the goods are going to find their way here through Togo, other places by road. You are going to have problems with our borders then, where a lot of corruption will be taking place. Things will come into this country. You need to set up special task forces to go and look for people. I mean, why do we want to create problems with the already burdensome economy that we have at the moment? And that is what the issue is. And then, not only just having the power to give the permit, but he's also the one that if they refuse you permit, you will have to petition too. And then he has the discretion to whether allow you or not to allow you.
So that is wide powers for the trade minister. Yeah, wide powers.
A lot of powers. And we are not talking about Katie Hammond. If this were to become a regulation or law in this country, future trade ministers
will also,
and you don't know which trade minister you are going to get next, who will decide to take things into his own hands. And there's going to be some cronyism. There are people at high. Look, people are going to be bothered. My brother and I will be bothered by people if we know the minister to go and try and help them get.
Or speak to him on my behalf. Speak to her on my behalf.
We don't want that situation. It will be abused.
Hold for me just a sec. Yeah. I'll come right back to you. What do you think on that specific point? Because from where I sit, knowing how we do our things in Ghana, I do know that those powers appear to be a bit too overweening, too wide. What do you think? And will likely be abused.
I also think that based on the concern of monopoly and where the minister would have the prerogative to select who imports, that is worrying. I mean,
even if you are set aside, you have to petition the minister.
My mother says that onwa onjine hundi. You understand? So sometimes when you're taking powers, you, the individual, have to question.
Watch yourself.
When I have these powers, what will happen to me? Because if I say no, president calls me that, hey, that's my cousin, or that's the guy who supported us heavily.
Or your leader, even your leader in parliament gives you a call.
Understand? So I think that rightly so, we better not put ourselves in that situation. And Ricketts has said it well. Sometimes when you are doing these legislation, consider the person taking the action an idiot. So if you have an idiot there, how do you feel safe proof that whoever becomes your trade minister will not be put in a situation where, sorry to say, if he's an idiot, country suffers. One of the beautiful things of the American system, and forgive me, in as much as we all thought Trump was chaotic, the system could contain his chaos because the institutions were in place, powerful systems were in place. And I always refer to when the vice president handed over power, because in the last election, it wasn't Trump that handed over power.
Yeah.
It was the vice president, Mike Pence, who handed over power. And the beauty of it was that by virtue of their constitution, the game had to be played how it was played, regardless of who the president was. And whether
I think Trump even went out. He was doing something.
Whether Trump
on that day,
whether he wanted it or not,
it was done.
The game was played appropriately because the democracy or the institutions worked, and the military made it very clear to Donald Trump that, hey, We are here to defend the Constitution of America, not an individual. So I think that the LI or the arrangement, whether we like it or not, it is very crucial that we put it in a way that, God forbid, if we have some chaotic minister,
and we will do.
I'm just there.
I mean, if you do these things, it's only a matter of time. We'll get someone who
so that we don't run into those issues where you might have to pay an arm and a leg for license,
permit, yes.
or permit. And I think minus that is the fact that, boy oh boy, Ghana needs to produce enough to prove to all of us that yes, we are men enough to steer our own affairs.
Reminds exactly as the Osajifo said. But it appears 63 years down the line, we are not. I just wanted your quick take on that. So let me come back to Ricketts.
Yeah.
Now, there's also the aspect of what next? If you don't get the 2/3, this passes, what could this mean? Will the other side, his side, the MPP, listen? And the Speaker of Parliament has also directed the Trade Minister, give draft import LI to subsidiary legislation committee. Yeah. What's the way forward from there?
I think it should even go beyond just the subsidiary legislation. I think committees that need to sit together, trade, finance, and all that, need to sit together with the minister to try and look at the challenges. Look, the challenges we are talking about is not only coming from us, the minority.
I know. Yesterday I spoke to the executive secretary of the Imports and Exports
Association.
Absolutely.
All of them are petitioning. So we have to listen to them. We can't just unilaterally do things and think that is the right thing to do, so you are going ahead to do it. When you know that there are problems along the way, and if the minister listens and imports some of these things into what he is presented, he himself will be better off, because the kind of pressure he's going to get, he has no idea.
Yeah.
The pressures, as he's saying, is going to come from high up. What do you say to the president when he says that my cousin is at your door and wants to do something? And you are going to say that...
The very person who gave you an appointment.
Who gave you an appointment?
The very person who can revoke your appointment.
Absolutely. And these things happen. Look, we've been in government, the challenges...
And I like the fact that you're admitting it, because it's not a matter of NDC or NPP. It happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No matter what, it will happen.
It will happen.
Excessive powers, like the aphorism says, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Lord Acton's aphorism. You don't want to put yourself...
No, absolutely not. You can't say that, I'm a principled man and I'm a this, and get into government and see. All your principles could disappear. Because the pressures that will be coming, and you don't want to create this situation. This will not go down well. And it will be a miserable Christmas and beyond. Because prices of goods are going to go up. Look, these market women, the moment they hear things like that, they just start hiking prices without even if they brought their things in early, because they're taking advantage to be able to, prices. And already things are tough. Things are difficult. You don't want to add this to the problems that we are trying to...
Finally, on that bit, I want to find out from the two of you what the way forward is in this regard. But we'll not get involved in laying LI. That's your deputy minority leader, Ama Kofi Boa. He says, you guys are not going to get involved. Quoting him, he says, we'll fight all the way to the end on behalf of the people of Ghana to express our position and the sentiments of the people, because this is not good for the people of Ghana, at least for the short term. So fighting, what does that mean?
Fighting is where we shouldn't go. Because in the end, some reasoning should prevail. The minister should get off his, being stubborn and being difficult about this, that. His is to get this LI done. And listen to some, industry players and all that about the challenges that this faces. I mean, we will fight and fight as we do, in Parliament. We may not go for this, but at the end of the day, if they get a LI laid, there's nothing anybody can do. In 21 days, we are not going to get the 2/3. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So the fighting is what we are doing here at the moment, and we'll go to the House and continue the fighting. But sometimes as a country, we need to leave this bipartisan stuff and think about the nation.
Okay.
And that if it's, look, this is going to be, it's likely that the NDC will come to power next year, 2024. We are going to be confronted with this whoever the finance minister and the trade minister is will be in the same situation, will have to deal with this. You might think that it's powers that you will get when you are a trade minister, but the burden that powers will come with, you can't handle it.
Just quickly, since you brought this up, I was going to come to you immediately, but since you brought this up, for something like this, a legislative instrument of this nature, let's assume your party does come to power, like you're saying. What processes then must be triggered to reverse some of what you're talking about, in case that happens?
Well, that's going to be tough, but it's doable. I mean, we will have to obviously present.
And I ask that question because it means that if this gets hung around everybody's necks, going back also becomes another problem. Look, legislative conundrum.
Within a year,
the president can make a huge impact.
Yeah.
With regards to assenting to this in the first place, which I don't know. I mean, as it stands. No, I'm just listen. This is not the first time something has been agreed upon, and then somebody impresses on the president's, thought, and he has a eureka moment and says, okay, you know what, the pressures of the trade industry. And
the president himself can indeed call Kwabena Tahiru Hammond and say, you know what, this thing.
People know him as
K.T. Hammond.
K.T. Hammond. So what we need to do, all of us who believe this will be problematic, is to put pressure, and hopefully, the president will hear this and say that, look, let's maybe look at this thing again. This is not going to be good for us.
Okay.
Look, in 2024, we will begin to see the massive problems that.
And I mean, I can see.
So for you, what is the way forward then, bipartisan level?
My biggest deal, and I've said it here, is that I think the numbers need to be looked at in terms of the scaling up.
Yeah.
And that would be the most appropriate thing. And when we can show that 40% of poultry produce is gotten here, and then we want to move to 60 or 80. Fine. Listen, as we say here, we import even eggs.
Yeah.
You understand? And that means that our egg production for the average Ghanaian is not enough. And something as basic as egg production. So I worry on that note that,
No, even if you talk about eggs, talk about sugar.
We had already spoken about it. We had already spoken about sugar.
We don't produce a single sugar in this country.
Yeah.
Look, a country.
But that's also an indictment on the NDC.
Well, it's also an indictment.
Yes, but it's a huge indictment on the NDC. Commander and all the Exim Bank and whatever. We are not producing even a cup of sugar. It's an indictment on your party.
Listen to him.
We build the factory. And we build the factory for a purpose.
Without
that's
sugar cane.
What you are saying. If we had stayed
without
in power,
sugar cane.
Who told you that there was no sugar cane?
Where is the sugar cane?
The thing is,
if it was, I would see it.
You did not understand the whole thing that we were doing.
How do I understand? You put the cart before the horse.
The factory is there. The building is there. You can say government is a going concern. If you have come, you've got to continue where the other government left off and get the sugar. 7 years. Let's say we didn't plant sugar cane. You've been in power for 7 years. Does it take 7 years to grow a sugar cane?
You tell me.
I'm asking you. As far as
both sides. I had already given him his bashing that even Alan Chemating had told us within a period we would have it. But I think both parties, you see,
strategic. We built it,
Mr. Ricketts Hagan.
The factory.
This is where I when we get to this point and we're having these conversations, my heart bleeds because both of you, in many areas of our economic life, have not been fair to the ordinary Ghanaian. Look at the loan we contracted the last time for Commander. Huge sums of money. If we are not producing, and today we are talking about this, look, reducing our imports burden is a good thing, especially where our economy is now.
I agree with you.
It's the execution, like you said. The devil is in the detail. But if we had got some of these little things right over time, we wouldn't be here.
We build the factory.
So your side must also learn to accept responsibility when that happens.
The other thing is,
they took the power.
Galamsey is damaging a lot of our agro land. Galamsey is damaging a lot of the water sources or water bodies that would make agric industry flourish. So we really have a huge problem.
Oh, we do. And
we really
the president put his presidency on the line for the Galamsey. What happened?
And as it stands now, Honorable Ricketts, the key thing, I'm only pointing out that, the problems are more than meets the eye. And I worry.
You're admitting that?
Oh, I mean, listen,
you are a reasonable man. So
I'm as fair.
I know you are. I know you
minded
are.
when it comes to these things, and I have to talk.
And it takes a brave man like you to admit some of the things.
I have to talk for the average Ghanaian, and I really think that as part of this whole discussion, and I think I'm happy that we're making a strong case that we all agree that reducing our importation will be good for Ghana.
Absolutely.
I will be 100% for fruits. Beverages importation, 100%, and I think that we can even extend it to some other things like alcohol. And that one day, I know some of my friends will.
You want people to beat you up, eh? Yeah, I don't drink. I don't drink. I'm a teetotaler, but your own people will finish you.
I know my people. Their cognacs and their Vsops and whatnot.
You'll be suggesting that on medical grounds.
On medical grounds, So I really think that our beverage industry, that one for sure, can help us.
Yeah.
Because there's Adonko, blah blah blah. We have that. I think in the system, ABL, Guinness, we have those in the system.
The Casaprecos,
yes,
Gihok distilleries.
So I think that when it comes to beverages, I think Ghana has a firm-handedness in that industry, and even like now, I think ceramic tiles, we are doing well. The evidence is there. So when you go after these ones, where I think we can show force in a way, fantastic. But when we haven't produced a grain of sugar over 14 years, when we've been aspiring to do it,
you want to cut your imports.
India has put people on the moon, and we can't do sugar in Ghana.
Uganda has 24 sugar factories.
No, I said India has.
And I said Uganda has 24. Let's stick with the sugar, not the moon.
But we've not been able to do sugar in Ghana. That is a conundrum. So it beats my mind that when we haven't achieved these minuscule, minute things, is highfalutin now to say that we're going to go from 0 to 100. I really think that the numbers can be adjusted. And that one, Trade Minister will have, the buy-in of the NDC. Because listen,
and have a deliberate policy.
We are really at a point where, listen, because we're entering an election year, I also think that it's important that the cohesion we have in Parliament needs to be there to avert the mistrust in governance. Because whether we like it or not, look at Sierra Leone's clash. I am very concerned about that, and I really want to use this forum to beg parliamentarians and the judiciary and all people in government that the way and manner we carry ourselves between now and December 2024 is going to either embolden miscreants who will put this country on a different path, or make it so clear a case that governance, as we have it, is the best for Ghana.
All right. So let's hold it. Let's hold it right there. And I like your approach on both ends, because I think that's the holistic way of dealing with a problem like this. But even as you say this, I want us to go to the 24-hour economy, because then we're also looking at industry and everything in between. But before we get there, the very same points you are talking about, the Speaker of Parliament says, in fact, let me quote him. He says, you guys have no, how would I put it? You don't speak for yourselves. You toe the line of the party, which becomes problematic in discussing issues like this. He says, so on the floor they say something, and when you meet them outside, they tell you something different. He's also said, the country's polarized politics has made it difficult for MPs to have the courage to stand on their own. So, you only amplify the views of your political parties and not your individual views. That's what I like about the Congress, the Senate in the U.S. Have you seen how the recent Republican leaders they've dealt with them?
I beg to differ on that.
Because
a little bit.
You are espousing your thoughts here, which is very good. I mean, when push comes to shove, your party whip will whip you in line and you vote according to the party.
I beg to differ. I think there's, to some extent, some truth to that. But it's not always the case.
There's a lot of truth to that.
In the past few months, we know some members of parliament stood up against the system. So that is...
You're meaning that Ken Ofori-Atta must go...
And that cannot be discounted.
And chickened out in here.
Well, boss, you can say chickened out.
Because they shipped them to
it wasn't
line, as you say.
Let's be a bit, honest about it. You can make your case to a certain point where you have also the support of the grassroots. It's very important. And then there comes a point where when things change, you ought to adjust. And you don't use the word chicken out. And I think that, listen, there are many clear instances where, for instance, our majority leader has made it clear that, listen, this is where the party stands is, but this is what Parliament stands for, and this is what we are thinking. And so I beg to differ. On that. And even within the NDC, listen, let me cite one strong example. Some members of Parliament were not for the change in their leadership. It was not whipping. Was it whipping? They just realized that, listen, in the interest of their own party, they agreed to their current leadership to make things flow well. Was that whipping?
Well,
was that chickening out?
Let's come back to
I'm just making it
very briefly. I don't want us to spend too much time on this. I want us to talk about the 24 hour
on this matter. But the issue, as you're right. The structure of Parliament. You decide the Senate and all that. The structure of Parliament makes some of these things very difficult. You look, a lot of issues we are dealing with now, in the past, you wouldn't have heard of it when we had a clear majority and a clear minority. It is this kind of a hung Parliament that some things are being...
Is the hung Parliament a problem?
No, I said it is this type of Parliament, hung Parliament, that you are hearing some of these things that we are debating, that things are coming out. In the past, you wouldn't hear them. E-levy and all that would have gone through without you hearing anything about it. So the hung Parliament is good, but we still have a problem where the parliamentarians are some of the parliamentarians are part of the executive. Then they basically don't have the kind of independence that you would expect them to have to be able to check the executive. And then you have people waiting for appointment, on the government side who are behaving so that they are called. So there's a whole lot of constraints that make things very difficult. And then when you are in the minority, you can shout and scream and kick your legs as much as you like. In the end, what will happen? The majority will have their way. So these problems...
It's like you say in Parliament, the minority will have
their say.
But the majority will have their way.
We'll kick our legs and all that. Yeah. In the past, when we kick our legs, nobody even sees it because 169 against 106 or something. It's done. Today, 139, 130, 137, 137, we have 138. So things we're able to do things a bit more effectively as if we have the muscle. But in the end,
so you're saying,
we're in.
Back to the point, do you vote on your conscience? Do you vote taking into account your constituents? Or is it the party that is supreme? Just give me a straight answer.
Well,
which is it?
You vote according to what your constituency wants you to do.
Not according to what your party tells you.
Constituency first. They elected you there. Yes, you came on a party ticket and all that. But then your constituency, like these guys, they came and said their constituent told them that Ken Ofori-Atta's position is no longer tenable. What happened?
Anyway.
And then he was talking about the grassroots being the ones you work for. The grassroots told you, get this guy out. They came and went to see the president and the party, and then, what happened?
So point made. 24-hour economy. But before I do, Doc, some comments that came through from the start. Apia Justice says, yes, he is doing good work. Gradually, the roads are being done in Anyaso Utuum. But this one also says, Adriana Amui says, that is my MP. Some of our roads have been fixed and we are grateful. We only pray that the road from Dela Junction through the Deseret Hospital to Antieku Junction will be fixed soon. Antieku, you said it was.
That's what I was saying. That
okay.
A portion of it has drainage.
And the person says, some of us have waist pain because of the bad road. You are affecting families. Oh, Nisisi crying here.
So the men are not performing well.
I don't know. That wasn't bad roads. Simon Ofriamankwa, please let me finish. Thanks for asking the question on the condition of roads in this constituency, Ben. Please ask Dr. Kisi, when exactly is the project going to be completed? Because it's very, very bad when it rains, and that is also in there. You were going to say something brief?
Well, I was going to say that roads. I was just making a joke about the roads. That of course, if you travel on bad routes, by the time you get to the end of the journey, you having some pains. I mean,
but you guys are traveling in V8s, and it's the commoners like us who are feeling the pinch. Your V8s and stuff, they have the shocks to withstand them.
Well, I tell you what,
if get damaged,
you replace them.
The roads are so bad that even the V8s are not doing it.
But I've seen some roads so bad that even the V8s, I think even the vice president at a point, he was going somewhere. He got stuck.
He got stuck.
He got stuck. He got stuck there.
Nowhere cool.
And some of us found it very laughable because we said the roads are.
It's actually good for things like that to happen to us.
Cool.
It is.
Yes.
Because then you.